The last time we reviewed the i20 N-Line manual, here's what I said. The i20 N-Line takes driving engagement and the fun to drive quotient to another level with the 3-pedal setup manual transmission. If you were in the market for a sporty, fun to drive hatchback, your search starts and ends right here. But now there's an all-new offering from Tata Motors, and it is this, the Tata Altroz Racer. It is the company's second performance hatchback after the Tiago JTB, and it aspires to catch the fancy of driving enthusiasts. So is the Altroz Racer the better car compared to an i20 N-Line? Let's find out. Both have 3-cylinder turbo petrol engines which make 120 horsepower, although it is worth noting that Hyundai deploys the costlier and more efficient direct injection technology, whereas the Racer makes do with indirect injection. But does that make any difference in the real world? The first thing that you should know is that Sport is the default drive mode in this car. It doesn't have any other drive modes, and the engine feels responsive and eager to make an impression. In fact, power delivery feels strong and linear all throughout the rev range, and flat spots and inconsistencies which were present in the iTurbo, those seem to have completely been eliminated. And what really complements this engine's power is its excellent chassis. Tata has made minor tweaks to the spring rate as well as the steering ratio, and as a result, it tackles corners beautifully. And its grip and cornering prowess really impress. The steering feels pretty direct too, which adds to the driver confidence. However, it feels a bit too heavy for my liking. Ride quality too is right up there with the best in the segment. You'll be surprised at how good this car's bump absorption capability is. It tackles bad roads with a sense of maturity. So if you deal with bad roads often and love the hatchback form, the Altroz could be the one for you. But here's the fly in the ointment, and quite honestly, it's a big fly, and that is its manual controls. Let's start with the gearbox first. They aren't very precise, and in general, this 6-speed manual feels a bit clunky in the way it shifts gears. Then there's the clutch. Its springy and sudden nature does take some getting used to. Its snappy clutch and far from perfect gearbox makes me yearn for an automatic. Sadly, Tata doesn't offer an automatic with the Altroz Racer, and I wonder why, because the naturally aspirated petrol Altroz comes with a dual clutch automatic, as does the turbo petrol with the Nexon, which incidentally is the same engine that powers the Altroz Racer. Now it's time to see what the i20 N-Line is like. Before getting to the drive impressions of the i20 N-Line, here's something that's really interesting. You see, in the year 2023, a whopping 78% of the i20 N-Line sales came from the automatic transmission, which means there's a substantial market and a substantial demand for an automatic transmission in this type of car. Tata Motors, you are missing out big time by not offering an automatic transmission with the Altroz Racer. And now shifting focus back to the manual transmission of the i20 N-Line. The i20 N-Line is about 100 kilos lighter than the Altroz Racer, so almost immediately the N-Line feels lighter on its feet. However, it's not just the weight that works in the i20 N-Line's favor. It's also Hyundai's direct injection turbo petrol engine. It pulls harder, cleaner, and in a much freer manner compared to the Altroz Racer. Sure, when you drop the revs below 2000 RPM, turbo lag feels more prominent in the i20, than in the Altroz Racer. But hey, when you have such a slick transmission at your disposal, you wouldn't mind changing gears just for the fun of it. Speaking of which, the gearbox has short throws, the shift action is positive, and it is an extremely slick unit. And I must mention this N gear lever, it just makes you feel so special. It plays a huge role in elevating the drive experience. And even the clutch, it's light and relatively more predictable. So combined, the clutch and the gearbox, they just make for a joyful drive experience. And as you might have guessed it, this is the quicker car. Here are the times on your screen right now. Aggressive launches in the Racer aren't possible as you can't turn off ESP. Hence, it is slower from a standstill. However, even if you take the launch out of the equation, the N-Line is much quicker in terms of rolling acceleration too. Besides straight-line performance, Hyundai has tweaked the N-Line steering and suspension as well. I'm really impressed with the way the i20 N-Line handles. And even its steering, it's lighter than the Altroz Racer, but it feels sharper and feels more eager to turn into corners. Now that said, the Altroz Racer offers better mechanical grip, and if you're looking for a corner carver, the Altroz Racer does a slightly better job. The i20 N-Line's ride is quite European. It feels stiff-kneed, but it remains settled at all speeds. We've seen how they drive, now let's take a closer look at what they're like on the outside, inside, and what all they have to offer. The Altroz's stunning design has sporty looking bits galore. To start with, it gets this racing stripe vinyl, and even though it resembles those on a Ferrari F430 Scuderia, personally I find them a bit cheesy. Then it sports a black treatment for the bonnet, roof, mirror, wheels, and even its large spoiler. The i20 N-Line is longer, wider, and has a longer wheelbase too. It is also the i20 that has wider tires. Its styling is distinctive, and while the N-Line features red accents all across and twin muffler tips, however, unlike the Racer, the i20 conveys its sporty intentions in a less shouty manner. Since looks are subjective, why don't you tell us which of these two do you think looks better? Moving on to the Altroz's interiors, splashes of orange, Racer embroidered into the headrest, orange stitching on the seats and steering bring the point across that this is a sporty iteration of the Altroz. Although its gear lever looks a bit too basic in an otherwise sporty interior. The front seats are quite comfortable, although even after setting the driver's seats to its lowest position, taller drivers will find headroom compromised due to the sunroof. Space at the rear is comparable to the i20, and there's also an armrest to speak of. It misses load sensors, so even if no one is sitting here, you will have to buckle up. Else the seatbelt warning will keep buzzing for a few seconds at the start of every journey. The N-Line's black interiors get touches of red all throughout, and while the hard and non-textured plastics on the dashboard don't feel particularly premium, the N gear lever and N steering wheel look superb and feel like they've been borrowed from a much more expensive car. Front seats in the i20 are broader and a bit more comfortable, although it misses the seat ventilation function that's available in the Altroz Racer. Speaking of which, here's what the top variants of these two cars have on offer. Features unique to the Altroz Racer are wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, ventilated front seats, rear armrest, and a 360-degree camera. The N-Line on the other hand gets LED headlamps and an auto-dimming mirror, which the Tata misses out on. On the topic of safety, their standard versions have been crash tested by Global NCAP. In 2020, the Tata Altroz secured a 5-star crash safety rating, while in 2022, the Hyundai i20 achieved 3 stars. That said, both cars offer kit like 6 airbags and ESP, while the N-Line also gets all-wheel disc brakes. As tested, their prices are similar, although the Altroz Racer is Rs 28,000 more affordable. With that, it's time for the verdict. It's been a fun day with these two performance-oriented hatchbacks. And before going ahead, I must say this. Hyundai and Tata must be lauded for not giving up on the hatchback segment, especially at a time when SUVs are the flavor of the season. Now coming to the verdict. Now both these cars are priced very similarly. They are very well equipped and they are reasonably spacious and practical. But here's the thing. Cars like these are bought by driving enthusiasts seeking the thrill of driving and wanting to connect with their machines. In this company, it is the Hyundai i20 N-Line that feels more special with its slicker controls and quicker performance. And it is the car that'll induce the wider grin on your face when you are behind the wheel. And yes, in this company, the Tata's ride and handling balance is outstanding. But somehow it lacks the X factor and the sheer emotional appeal the i20 N-Line exerts. Let me put it this way, if I had to put my money on either one of these two, it is the Hyundai i20 N-Line manual that would be my pick.